G'day everybody, how are you today? Welcome to the round table. And
Good day, Luna.
g'day. And on the round table who we got today, we've got, starting from the top, we have Connie. How are you today, Connie?
I am really, really, really good. Thank you.
Thank you for coming today. And we got Donnie. Donnie's muted. How you going, Donnie? He's muted and he hasn't been drinking. And we'll leave him alone till he's ready. And Jules, how are you today, my sister?
Doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Who else we got here? We got Malia. Welcome, Malia.
Yama.
And we got
Awesome. It's doing totally awesome and amazing over here.
cool. We just got a message from Donnie. He's feeding the horse. He'll be with us soon. And we got Sharon. Hey, g'day, Sharon. Thanks for coming.
Good day. Thank you so much for inviting me. Looking forward to today's topic and discussion.
Okay, well, we'll get right into it. Today is, what is wisdom? So at what point in our lives does wisdom come? Are we born wise? Does wisdom have an emotion like other words that we've discussed before? Is there such a thing as positive and negative wisdom? Does wisdom last, or do we have to maintain it? And what position does wisdom hold in this world and in the spiritual realm? And does wisdom contain truth, fear, or belief? And how many wisdoms are there? Is there such a thing as an ultimate wisdom? And how does wisdom weave itself into our lives? And is our world run from wisdom? And the last one, why do we associate old people with long hair or little old creatures as wise? All right, so there you go. There's some food for thought. If who wants to kick off first? Every week this happens and it's silent. Okay.
Oh my, that's a range of topics. Yeah. Wow.
So this is just
Wow, that go ahead.
No, that's just wisdom as I wrote it down. All these things come to me. All these things come to me, and that's why I present them to you so we can answer them.
That's beautiful.
I have a definition that's my own for wisdom.
Please.
Um, Wisdom is knowledge you apply over everyday situations and life situations. So it's knowledge applied.
Knowledge.
Applied knowledge.
Applied knowledge. Applied knowledge is wisdom.
I agree with that. I think it's the ability to make a decision based on the combination of knowledge, experience, and intuitive understanding.
Yes.
Okay.
When I was thinking about the subject today, my first real assessment and use of wisdom came from a lot of my experience in AA with the AA prayer. God
Yes.
grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Wow.
And there's a lot of wisdom in those words.
No, no,
Yes.
no.
And when you start to work on getting sober, you have to change your drinking, what we call drinking thinking in AA. And I would change that word with woke thinking. And you start to realize, what is the serenity to accept the things you can't change and the courage to change the things you can? Because I think wisdom is, when to say something and when not to say something. That it's none of your business to tell people how to live their lives. So you start to just pay attention to your side of the street, not feel responsible for the other side of the street. And then when you're sober, you start to really go after the things that you never went after before, in the sense of there are times you do have to tell the truth. There are times you do have to confront something that's in your way or that's running over you, and you have to fix it. And that's where I think you start to build wisdom. Because you said, does it last or do you maintain it?
Yep.
I think if you stay, all right, so I'll talk from the AA perspective. You can stay sober. You can stay in what I call the sobriety lane, and you can continue to build upon your wisdom. You can continue to trust that the decisions you're making are wise, and you're because you're thinking for yourself as well as the people you're communicating with. And so one of the words I would connect to wisdom is trust, trusting yourself, which can be pretty big if you haven't been able to do that in your life before.
It's huge.
So, do you think we're born with a degree of wisdom that we may or may not have brought over from our past lives? Or do you think that each time it's a new slate and we have to gather new wisdom because the times are different and the world's different?
I thought about that too today, and I think some people are born with an innate wisdom. I think some of us have to be reminded. Some of us have to learn how to do it again. It depends on the road we get caught up in. It's sad that in some ways I don't think we raise our kids to understand wisdom or actually use the word. We'll maybe say something like use your head or be smart, or why do I have to tell you something that you should at least understand this. But I think for some of us it comes with the knowledge and experience that we can start to trust ourselves. Going back to trust again, we can start to trust ourselves. It's like, I've done this 2 times before. I recognize this and I'm going to start acting on it now.
Okay. So, this is really fun. I don't know, Creator gives me these words, right? And then I just write out whatever, because I'm thinking, all right, so you got to trust yourself. So if you got wisdom coming out of you got to trust that wisdom coming out of you. So where does it come from then? So if it's not coming from you and you got to trust it before, as it comes out, and you're gaining it, is it a life experience? We had in the chat room here, so someone said DNA. You got wisdom in your DNA. Another one. Where was Leslie's comment? That was a good comment, Leslie. Whoops. Wanting to share your journey and your experience with others to help others from your spirit, and that's what the wisdom comes out.
I think wisdom could also be an insight and a good sense of judgment.
A guide. So do you think we're born with a degree of wisdom? Do you think some people are born with a degree of wisdom?
I think it's like IQ or intellect. I think we're all born with a certain capacity, but it's interesting that scripture refers to wisdom as she.
Yeah, that's a good
And
point, Connie.
I think if we do not seek wisdom, we will not find it. But the minute we seek wisdom, it's kind of like when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
We seek wisdom. Don't we often seek truth with the wisdom?
Well, now we
Well,
get
I
into the
think Connie
nitty-gritty.
brings up a good point, because in the ancient text, wisdom is often referred to as feminine, although we have like the example of Solomon being masculine, yet having the wisdom coming from his mother. So the reason he gained his wisdom is because he absorbed the teaching of his mom. So we still have this maternal aspect throughout ancient texts, whether it's Sumerian or even in Maya, and several other Native American texts of a maternal type, even leadership over the tribe, where that is where wisdom is maintained within. So we ask the question, are some people born with it? I think absolutely yes, in agreement with what Donnie said, because it's within DNA, and we know that DNA is eternal. Essentially, it goes all the way back to the very beginning. So every part of past lives and these kinds of things that we've lived and experienced already is maintained within the DNA. We know that trauma is marked in the DNA now, and several other things is fact. But so I think it's an absolute, maybe not absolute, but I mean, by reason, we can logically say that yes, wisdom can continue on through lives, and some children are born with this containment of wisdom.
Wow, there was truth in that because everyone went silent. That happens on this show all the time. We all go
Well,
silent.
I'm chewing on it.
Truth
I
speaks.
ponder that.
Truth
She
speaks.
said a whole lot of stuff.
I know.
Okay, that was like 3 different concepts to me. So that was a lot of meat in that.
Yeah.
So it was too much at one bite.
All
I gotta
right.
think
Well, I was
about it.
building off of what you said, and I was a little held in for a little bit. Let others go first, so I was trying to remember everything.
Okay.
But I'm also a journalist, so I'm used to putting everything together if I have something to say. So, yeah. I don't know. I really think that we can build off of that if we have a solid base, and that 3, we can build a solid base off of 3, of a 3 dimension, answering those 3 main questions. That yes, we do see. Oh, good, Johnny, you have something to say. Okay. That wisdom is inherently feminine. That we. That some children are born with it because of it's maintained within the DNA, like certain marks of our spirit and these kinds of things from past lives, and that we have quite clear evidence that while if we maintain a society that is more tribal-like, that places a maternal type leadership in it, then we tend to have a more peaceful type society, as long as we're not looking at, well, let's bring into what we have right now, where there's female coming into the main stage light, but they are filled with a lack of wisdom, I would say, a great lack of wisdom when it comes to handling or dealing with anything. So there you go. Did I spin it off some more? Did I make more sense? Sorry.
That was good, love.
No, it was good.
So, my next question: does women have? Do women have emotion? Of course we do. Does wisdom have emotions? Like other words that we've discussed before. You know, when we've had a yarn before, and we've felt the emotion in the word. Does wisdom have any emotion? What emotion
It
is
does
wisdom?
for me.
What does it feel like?
For me, wisdom wants us to want her. And she calls in the streets looking for people that are looking for wisdom. So, yeah, she has a feeling to me. She's love.
I think when I
Yeah, go ahead.
wisdom, I think when I picture wisdom in my mind or I encounter it, it's usually like your last question is, Luna, in an ancient tree form spirit, cool running waters type, very living environment, I would say, where I encounter that type of a spirit in a spirit sense or emotional sense.
You know, when we're talking about the goddess of wisdom, we're talking about Athena.
I'm not talking about a goddess, but if you guys are, I'll listen.
I mean, God, goddess, the powers that should not be. The first thing that comes up in that search is Athena.
Ah, she means wisdom?
Yes.
Okay.
I never thought of wisdom as a woman. I always just seen it as an energy.
It is an energy.
Yeah.
It's a definite energy.
Often wisdom's associated with like a golden light or something, around your head.
That's how I would perceive it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think, to me, when I think about wisdom and you stand in your wisdom, you actually stand in your power. You're empowered at that point, because the more experience we have making the wise, I'll speak for me, I'll do an I word here. The more I was able to stand in my personal wisdom, the more empowered I felt because I was standing in experience and I was making decisions that I thought were right, that felt like this was the right thing to do at the moment in time,
Right.
regardless of how it made me feel. Like, even if it was a hard decision or it was a decision that caused me personal pain or whatever, but it was the wise decision. You know, that was a power. That's where I think empowerment is. That on our journey, we need to have tools in our tool chest. And, you know, like if we just look at where we are today, I'm so grateful that I have tools in a tool chest to help me navigate where we are. I can't imagine trying to deal with all of this silliness out there without the years I've had on this planet. It would be very difficult. I think
And
I'd probably drown.
I think, Sharon, you've just described the people who we call, how can they not see this? And it's overwhelming. If you don't have some kind of solid foundation that you know you can stand on, no matter what reality we see, then you
Yeah.
can't look.
So I was
Correct.
just listening.
Or it's too much.
It's too much. Yeah, it's overwhelming.
'Cause
Yeah,
it is.
absolutely.
Sometimes wisdom overrides emotions because the choice that you make, the wisest choice, may not be the one you want. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yes.
That
And
it's usually the higher road. It's
Yes.
much easier to choose the one that's right in front of you, and it's the easiest way to go. I generally found that's not the right way. It's going to be the one you're going to have to learn some stuff to get through.
Right.
Yep.
No, that's awesome, Connie. And again, I think that I want to wonder if wisdom is something that comes. I think it was kind of one of your questions, Luna, that comes with skill and practice in some very specific type of art form or this kind of thing. Is wisdom built? Is something that can be built through life? I think is kind of what the question I want to ask there.
I think it only can be. I think it can only be built on life. I mean, it'd be very easy to read a book and, you know, read brilliant decisions or people's wonderful lives, or, you know, you could look at Einstein. At one point, he used to have lots of young people write him letters and ask him questions, and he would give these answers. It was kind of interesting. But his answers were wise, I think, because by the time they were writing him, he was older and he had lived a long life and he understood life. And I think without that, you know, you think about Dorothy going on to the Wizard of Oz, right? She's going on her trip. Before, in the beginning of the movie, she knows there's this other place that she wants to go. And then she ends up getting to go there, and then she realizes, wow, maybe this isn't everything I thought it would be. And then, you know, I pretty much had a lot of this right here at home. But she was never going to understand that if she hadn't done it. And one of the favorite scenes is at the end when she said, when what's her face, Glenda says, you could have gone home anytime. And the Scarecrow goes, well, gee, if I'd known that, I could have told you. But Glenda's like, yeah, but she wouldn't have learned. You know? And so I guess we come here actually to become wiser, smarter beings.
So we not only can be born with wisdom, but we can be put into situations where we are taught wisdom in our daily lives. It sounds like a really important part of life itself.
I have a question.
So do I go.
What's your question?
No, I'm the host, man, so I've got a lot of questions for you.
Well, I just have a question about, okay, when I was very young, I had a sensing or a knowing, but I had no language or no frame of reference to know what the heck was going on, really. Like, I could walk in a room and know people were just like there was real bad fighting or tension, and everybody got quiet or something. And I'd walk in and I would sense all this, and usually I'd go and put on something real funny or do something with humor to break it up. That was my child's way of like saying, I don't like this energy here, let's laugh. But I couldn't say that it was wisdom because I didn't understand all this sensing. I thought everybody felt the way I felt until I got older and realized, oh, okay, all right, I'm done. Sorry.
What's your intuition?
But what is intuition? What is that?
Donnie just put in 6 cents, and actually there is a fine line. That's why I kept asking, is wisdom brought over from another life? Because there's a line where wisdom actually becomes your intuition. Your the beeper, you know, that beeper that says something's coming before it happens.
I call it my gut.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. It's there. We all have it, and wisdom is tied into that somehow. Because the more wisdom you have, and trust with your wisdom, the more your intuition grows, or your gut feeling. You trust your gut feeling. Can you see the connection there?
Yeah.
So somehow wisdom comes from, what word do I use to describe all that? It comes from the place where Creator gives us our gifts. It's tied into there somehow. There's a thin string between wisdom and Creator and spirituality, is what I'm trying to say. I haven't seen that in any other word yet. That's the first word I've come across that has this string, so to speak. It's the best way I can describe it.
Luna, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Donnie is mentioning fire treatment theory.
Yeah, what is that?
I know in Native we have like a fire treatment thing, but I'm wondering if what is that? Can you
I'm not
expound,
sure
or
what
Donnie,
he's
can you
saying,
tell
but
us?
yeah, Donnie, if you want to unmic, do you reckon you could fill us in on that? My fire treatment at the moment is, F 'em, just burn the place down. Sorry, I'm joking. Can you speak, Donnie?
Except the few other pretty places, don't burn that down.
Yeah. Selective burning. That's what we did, selective burning.
There we go. Hey, you know what? It's funny, but you know what? In the news, there has been some interesting. I don't know if you noticed. There's been this one place in the desert that opened up called the Pit of Hell. Yeah, and it's like this forever-ending sinkhole that has no bottom.
Oh, yes, I've heard about that.
Heard about
Yes.
that one?
Yes, I have heard about that. Donnie's unmiked now.
Yeah, it could.
Go, Donnie.
Oh, here we go.
Give us
Okay,
the fire
here's
treatment.
The fire treatment theory.
Yeah, well, what I was trying to explain is if you stick your hand in that fire and you know it's going to get burnt, but I've seen where people stuck their hand in the fire and never got burnt. Which part of wisdom is that?
That's what I was hoping you were talking about. That as well in Native American, we have our fire people who walk on fire, they say, and touch fire. Nese might have something to say about that. I know Anishinaabe have some fire people.
Yeah.
I believe they did. Nese, are you with us? I don't know if he's here.
I don't think he is. Oh, yes, he is.
He's here, but not here. It may take him a minute to unmute. You're muted.
Yeah, it'll take a minute. He'll jump in when he's ready. Keep going, Malia. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have it in several of the Dogman type tribes, like the ones who worked with the Dogman type, which they traveled throughout. There's lots of different legends regarding that, but as well in Australian too that I've heard.
So, what's the point
Along with the
of walking
Yowie
on fire? I don't understand. What is the point of people that can walk on fire and not get burnt, put their skin in fire and not get burnt? Okay, they have a power. What is the point for the community? I don't understand.
Well, I know in native firewalkers were considered to be able to traverse the multi-dimensional realms, and so that's how they were believed to be able to walk on the fire was because they were ascended or traversed into a multi-dimensional realm, and it was somewhat of like a proof, I guess, in a sense. Again, it's both feminine and masculine, but it's for a storyteller to
I
really
still
tell.
don't
Nose
understand.
is our storyteller.
What does it give to the community? How does it help the community that
It helps
someone
in that it's so in the sense of the shaman type. This would also be your visionary. It would be the one who's able to give direction and paths to the tribe, which way to go. They would make a firewalking ceremony specifically for specific reasons. Obviously, if there was some type of sickness going throughout the tribe, or there was some reason that that the tribal spiritual leader needed to traverse the other realms to view if well called tag named now spirit rescue. Spirit rescue essentially is that same thing where when someone is having being tagged by a dark spirit or so called or something generational or something like that is going on, you would need well, they're called today mediums or these kinds of things to be able to move through the realms, or a healer, spiritual healer who can see those spirits essentially, or see how that's affecting your aura, and be able to pull that out and draw it out of you to help heal your whole being, your spirit, your physical, your mental, and your spiritual sense.
Cool.
So when we're looking at medicine, when we're looking at natural healing, something that is an ancient wisdom gift,
So,
definitely is something that comes with skill, with learning, with training, with spending time with the elders instead of what most people's path would be, just kind of going on to work and spending with peers and this kind of thing at the same age as you in the tribal times, or ancient Native American or Native all tribes. Um, Essentially, what we saw was a deeper sense of a family unit. And so when a child, it was noticed when a child was a bit different, more interested in herbs or more interested in berries, more interested in spending time with the elders rather than learning how to hunt or et cetera, et cetera. And so that specific skill is grown in the child is given to the elder to learn those medicines and the ancient wisdoms. So,
cool.
yeah.
Thank you for
I
that,
don't know
Malia.
if that-
So that brings me to a question I haven't wrote down is, when we see a person, what is it about them that lets us know they're wise? Is it their energy, the way they look, what they say, the way they move? We've all met wise people. What is it about them that lets you know they're wise before they even open their mouth? Do you?
I think the first word that comes for me is they're grounded. They're really grounded in themselves. They're usually pretty calm. They're they don't have to prove themselves. You know what I mean? They you get this innate sense of being they're comfortable in their own skin. So they're not, the first thing you don't see is their ego. You don't see their ego. Because I think when the more wisdom you have about yourself, the less you have to demonstrate that you're the badass on the block. You don't need to do that. You don't have to prove yourself. You just, you show up and you're comfortable. And you don't have to be the star. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't have to take over. And I think people gravitate to people who are like that because it's easy for you to be around them. That's for me anyway.
And healing, it's a healing energy around these type of people too, I believe.
Yeah.
I've experienced that anyways.
I've got a question for Donnie here, because our mob, we got what we call clever people, and I want to ask Donnie, what's the difference in our mob between a wise person and a clever person? And if you don't want to answer it, it's all right, Donnie, because I just put you on the spot. Any takers? Yeah. Donnie?
I really would like to hear Donnie say some things. I haven't gotten to hear him say much.
No, he's right. He might be doing something. Well, I'll leave that question for him later when he comes back.
Say it again, please. Can you ask that question again?
Oh, the
It was a
question
good
was, for our mob, we got clever people, and what's the difference between a wise person? Oh, he's typed it in, elders. But the elders are wise, yeah?
That's why they're elders, right?
Yeah. So this wisdom has
Or-
more to wisdom than meets the eye, I'm telling you.
Oh, they're
What's your idea of a clever person? Is that somebody smart? I mean, clever is very different than smart.
Yeah.
I mean, right? And sometimes it's almost can be cynical. You know, it's like, well, he or she they think they're so clever.
yes.
So it's can be negative or positive. Yeah, clever manipulation. Well said, Bernays. Yeah, exactly. So
in
I don't
it-
usually use clever.
Oh, in our mob,
You know,
we
if
use clever.
somebody
You got to remember.
and does that mean smart? Does that mean smart?
Yeah, that's like wise
Clever
and knows things that other people don't know.
Oh,
Because you got to remember, with our language, Australian language, not English, we picked up from the English and used it the best we could. So they go, "Oh, you're clever in magic." Donnie's saying, "You're clever." So for us to describe our people like that, would say, "Oh, they're clever." Would say they were the clever people.
Someone like
then-
an illusionist or
The magic people,
or-
yeah, they're wise. They're wise.
They're
They're
quick, they're
they've got all
gypsies
them
even.
things. Mini Yodas.
Oh, and can they be magic and an elder?
Quick to
Oh
say
yes,
the
that's the
point
important
out of your
part. The
pocket.
magic part is the important part. Yeah, that's what makes them clever as opposed to wise. See, I answered that question.
Oh,
I wasn't
okay,
supposed
wait,
to
go
answer.
back. So clever. All right, back into your language again. So, can a person be clever and wise? They can be an elder and in magic, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, they're all the above.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I want.
Not all old people are wise, though.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
I've met children. I've met young kids that come out with wisdom, and I listen to children as much as I'd listen to an adult, because everyone has important something to say. And yeah, some of the stuff coming out of those children's mouths, I'm like, well, gee, I wish you were the parent or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So
They haven't been corrupted enough. That's why I listen to children. They really speak
well, that brings
just really what's on their mind or what they've seen or whatever.
me to the question: is there such a thing as positive and negative wisdom?
Yes.
You think yes?
Yes,
I think yes.
absolutely.
I
It's-
think so.
It's described.
There has to be, and there has to be a neutral.
There's a
How could there be a negative wisdom? Why would you, if somebody, why would you?
I can describe it if you
You
want.
can be wise
please
in the
do.
dark arts.
Please explain.
Oh, but then but to me, that's corrupted. That's evil. That's darkness. That's not wisdom.
True,
They're smart.
but
They're smart, or they're good with darkness. But to me, that's not wisdom.
It's called
Right. Well, to those
superficial
who are-
wisdom.
yes.
We need someone.
Artificial.
But it's,
Yeah.
the, it's the
Superficial.
opposite. There's the opposite in everything.
But I'm not going to talk over Malia.
So-
So
So I love you, Connie. I love you.
I love you very much. I just don't want to talk at this
We're
same
just
time. So
we're
go.
just family. We're just bloodline sisters. You know that, right? Like right next door.
Oh, so I just asked you a question, and we nearly had a mini fire. Is there positive and negative wisdom? Obviously, maybe there's positive wisdom, but it's not
Yes.
actually negative wisdom. It's a kind of energy that spins off.
Yeah,
from it.
and I say because in the dimensional realms, or even in now, we have experience of things like psychic attacks and this kind of stuff where or even possessions or poltergeists, et cetera, that topics that we've discussed in other shows, even ghosts and
Yeah.
UFOs, like, we can go on and on. Of those who are so-called wise in the dark arts, they've learned the skill and applied their trade to a point that they have
They're-
advanced to a certain level and able to maneuver. Right?
Yeah, I get that, because I was going to say, if I was a dark one and good at what I do, I'd have the wisdom to stay away from the light ones and stuff like that. So it's just a
Right,
flip reverse.
right.
Yeah.
And some of them do, and some of them don't. Some of them are just really stupid, even though they are advanced in that. So yeah, does wisdom, that I think it brings up another question. Does wisdom necessarily mean just that you're advanced in skill and trade and able to do it to a specific degree or level? Or is it something that is only like what the point Sharon brings up? Is wisdom only truly good? Yeah, that's a good question. It's a deep question.
It is. Like for instance, if we were going to talk about Darth Vader, Darth was extremely amazing at being able to do whatever he wanted to do. Like when he could choke somebody by just standing on the other side of the room and deciding he was going to choke him to death, which he did. He had the skills to do the dark arts. He knew how to manage them. He knew how to manipulate. He knew magic. Did that make him wise? I guess it did. I guess in some ways, if you look at the word wise, he was, but again, it's not a word I would use I would choose to call Darth Vader, because he decided to go down the dark side, right? And use his talents to harm others and to manipulate.
Yeah, well, let's take it to Lord of the Rings or something and look at like
Right.
Gandalf the wizard versus
Exactly.
Sauron the other one, you know. And does it correlate? I think so.
I think what it comes down to is probably a personal preference. You certainly could use the word. It's not the word that would come to me to use, because, and again, it's kind of, I'm limiting the word, because you're right. I think you could use it for any of the characters, the really smart characters, whether they made stupid decisions or not. But like Donnie's saying, like clever people can kill or heal. That's exactly right, Donnie. You're right. You're absolutely right. But again, I like the word clever versus wise. Although in your language, it is that clever is wise.
So I'm saying it's kind of like a tally, you know, when you don't know what to do and you go the for and against. It's kind of like that. If I do this, this is going to happen. If I do that, that's going to be a positive thing. And you tally it up, and then you find the best one out, and you just made a wise choice.
Right.
Well, I agree with that, but I think wisdom is one of those qualities that's just hard to define because it encompasses much, but people generally recognize it when they experience it and they evaluate the situation around them. But when they're faced with the uncertainties of future events, that's when they gain. That's when that wisdom, that being wise, comes to gain wisdom.
Okay, Bernays has thrown a nice thing in the pot there. And I
Yeah.
kind of agree with you there, Bernays. So Bernays is saying that because inside ourselves we have male and female, and if they don't agree, you end up in an argument inside your head. And he's saying that for us to find wisdom, those two have to agree and make a judgment together, yay or nay, and then wisdom can be sought out of that. And unless those two are agreeing, you won't find wisdom. Is that, and it's a balance, is that what you're saying, Bernays? Just put a yay or a nay in there so I got you right. You should just unmute yourself and tell us.
How did the word heaven come in there? Oh, he is saying yes.
Yes, thank you.
You know, I'm a Libra, and so Libras.
You butthead! I was just gonna say that.
my God! See, great minds. And
I was
so,
like, I'm a Libra, so that's like perfect.
so what drives us is balance and the scale.
Yes.
Everything is the scale. And so you're constantly, yay, and making a decision is excruciating if you are a Libra. You might as well pull our arms off without
Oh my
any
God.
anesthesia. It takes forever. However, once we're done, I personally believe once we're done, and especially if we've had practice doing this, in my opinion, we make the decision and we don't look back.
Yeah.
Because we've put so much time and balance into it, because we looked at both sides, we sat in both sides, we agonized over both sides. It was well, we're talking about the bigger decisions, of course, but that's what drives us. And when you look at the astrological signs, Libras are perfect for ambassadors and judges and those kinds of roles.
Yeah. Project planners.
Yeah, yes, which I am. Yes, and you are right. Yes,
Yeah.
project planners. Yep, absolutely.
Project management, handle the calendar, and you guys you'll be fine. Just let Libra put everything in her tiny boxes,
Yes,
and we're good.
that's right.
If I may,
Oh, there's
Yes.
that beautiful
Hey,
voice.
Naysay, welcome, brother.
hello, hi. When it comes to sagacity, I will see your vagina and raise you by a penis, but it
I
doesn't
nearly lost my
matter
beard.
Thank
what
you,
is
Naysay.
between your genitalia
Thank
to
you.
have wisdom.
Thank you, Naysay.
That
Now I've got to take that
the
out of the
full
recording.
Gotta figure out how to bleep it out.
the full spectrum of wisdom will be as it
Mark the
is.
time.
And we, as Anishinaabe, talk about there are people that grow old and there are people that become elders. That as you go through your experiences, that you have an ability to contemplate the next choice of action, whereas utilizing the fire, where wisdom is you see the fire and you go to reach for the fire, and at some point you're like, oh, that's hot. I shouldn't reach my hand in anymore. And the difference is where it's like, oh, that's hot. How far can I reach my hand in the fire? And back to when it comes to those that are able to go through and beyond the pain of the physical, they utilize that in prestidigitation as a tool of inspiring people to create the I forget what is it, the placebo, because we need sometimes a tool in order to create the experience that we're potentially wanting. Because if we can't find the tools or the modalities to move forward in a positive way, then we're more likely going to find negativity. But I am that I am is only full of whiz, dumb, and the stupidest man I know.
Do we want us to agree with that or not? No, I'm joking. All right, back to what we're doing. That was really good. Thank you, Naysay. Where are we now? Let's drive this bus. Okay. Do we need to maintain wisdom? Or does it just grow and like a little plant and we just clip it here and there and it just grows and grows? Or is it like patience where you have to keep filling up that cup because you run out of wisdom? Or is it not that, and is it because it changes, your situation changes and your wisdom may change? What do you think? You have to keep wisdom maintained, or it just grows, or it shapeshifts?
I don't think you have to do much to keep it maintained, but as you walk into different situations, I think you have to utilize your wisdom in different ways. You have to reassess your opinion and make a decision sometimes, but the wisdom, it's there. Just it's kind of mutable. It kind of changes with these situations sometimes.
Yeah, I think it changes depending what's happening, and you add to what you have. It may be new wisdom from a different area. And
Does
there,
that mean that you're reacting differently to it, Luna?
no, I'd say yeah, depending on what situation you're faced with, a new situation, you've never been in it, you've had no wisdom for it. You use your old wisdoms to assess what's going on, but you're open to any new wisdoms that'll come through intuitively or whatever to assess the situation you're in now. And then as you move through that wisdom will add to your old wisdom, but it might look like a different coloured flower on the tree. So you'd have different coloured flowers on your tree for different situations as you've grown. Because you think about your life, first time you walked into a pub, say, we'll use that as an example. The first time you ever walked into a pub, that energy hit you, everyone looks at you, and this is new. What do I do? Well, wisdom tells me just to stay cool and not irritate anybody until you assess the rest of the situation. After you've left the pub, you've gone, oh man, I had a really good time. Next time I know, and you walk back in, you're more wiser and you know what's happening. So in your life plan of wisdom, that's a little yellow flower, say, as opposed to the blue flower you got when you learned how to manage work placement or something. Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm understanding
Yeah.
what you're saying.
That's how I see it anyway. It grows like a plant and different wisdoms, different colour flowers, but it's all one entirely. It's you and all your wisdoms. Out of
One
that,
description of wisdom is I like it because it implies building. Like as we walk our journey, it's precept upon precept, line upon line, and it's building as we're walking our journey and learning, as Donnie said, through the mistakes we make, through our failures. There's no shame in failing. What did you learn from it? And if you learn something, it's not a failure. So everything is a learning experience, whether it's how I don't want to be, what I admire and I would like to have more of. So I want to hang out around those kind of people more. It just kind of I just think it's a living thing.
and it's wisdom or a wise dome. That means your head's wise. I had to chuck that in. All right. Thank you for that, Connie.
Well, if I
Go.
if I may go back with the wisdom as a full spectrum of wisdom being neutral in itself, and what do we utilize that wisdom for? That's where the choice of it being positive or negative, depending upon the observer and their perspective of what is being utilized. But wisdom, I think, is an inherent knowing of extrapolating the situation to make a decision of the outcome. Because I think of like the word kingdom, you establish what is the kingdom, the boundaries, the realms of the kingdom, where the the wisdom, you at some point will realize what is the boundaries of your wisdom, what is the boundaries of your ability of taking stock or taking measurement. So knowing what your wisdom or what your ruler is for the measurement is inept. It's within you, and then you use that to make your choice of positive or negative. And I would think that being more selfless would be more positive when you utilize wisdom. And where it's more negative is when you use your wisdom for your own benefit.
So that was really good, Naysay. And I want to ask Sharon, would that be what AA calls taking inventory?
Yeah, taking inventory. Yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, I always looked at it as doing an assessment of the situation on yourself,
Yes,
taking inventory on yourself, right?
yes.
Yeah, which I guess is connected to what Naysay just said. Yeah.
I don't know. The two connected for me right away, and I don't know why. So I just thought
Okay.
I'd
Yeah,
ask you.
no, I think you're probably right. It's just different words, but saying the same thing. Yep.
Yeah.
Collect
Okay.
the data.
Yeah, collect the data and assess the situation.
But you got to be honest with yourself. That's the thing.
Yes.
No, no. KNOW.
Actually, that was a question I had about wisdom having been like the other words. Does wisdom contain truth, view, belief, like some of the other words that we've talked about? And obviously it does, because you've mentioned it, that wisdom is a collection of truth and all that stuff. Sorry, just to chuck that in like that. I had to tick off my list. But that's what I've found personally, that wisdom does contain those other words we've talked about. And it's a mixture of those other things like truth and belief and knowledge and all that. It's a mixture, and it comes out wise if you mix it right. You become wise. You have wisdom from
Are
it.
we the mixers,
Yes.
or is a higher power the mixer?
No, we're the mixers. If you notice when you are seeking wisdom, that it's actually the higher you that settles it. Because sometimes when you make a decision out of wisdom,
But where did that higher you come from?
that's the Creator made it. That's you. The higher you is the true you. The physical you here is the one that's controlling the body. You know what I mean?
Got it. Yes.
Yeah. It's the one that wants to eat ice cream and chocolate. While the wise you goes, that's not good for your body, don't you? We all know
And I
about
said,
that.
shut up, wise one. I'm busy right now.
Yeah.
I'll be with
Eating
you
it.
in a minute
Yeah.
when my ice cream's gone.
Yeah, so
we'll
your
talk.
higher self, the wiser you, the one that has the wisdom, the more
Exactly.
spiritual wisdom, yeah, that one makes the final decision. Actually, that was another question I had. Where is it? I'll just find it. Sorry about this. Is there such a thing? The ultimate wisdom, we'll go with that. Is there such a thing as an ultimate wisdom? For each of us, probably there is. You look in yourself and you find your own ultimate wisdom of all those things you've collected.
I would say that ultimate wisdom is the ability to make a wise choice, whether you are by yourself or in a group. Because we'll be by ourselves and we'll be like, oh, that ice cream is so delicious, even though I know. And the choice of not doing the ice cream because you know it is in your best interest. And then it's the same thing when you're with a group of people where everybody's like, have the ice cream, go ahead, have the ice cream. Because they would rather, assumption of course, you have the ice cream too, because that gives them justification to also have the ice cream. But the wise individual is saying, no, I won't do this either on my own or in a group because I know.
Yep. And your higher self says that's the final decision, that's the wise decision, and we're going with it. Everybody on board? Yep. And then you take the motion. So,
The willpower.
Before you go forward, I wanted to acknowledge something Donnie said here. It's like he said, what is negative and positive? What is right or wrong? And then he was referring to, I think, Darth Vader, looking at Darth Vader, he said. That's a very good question because, again, I think that's discernment to the person. I think what is negative and what is positive, what is right or wrong, I really think that's up to us to decide what that is and with our higher self. I think that's what we've come here to find out. Because Darth had his own path, and who's to say that Darth's path was the one that led to Leia, the daughter, and Luke Skywalker to go and do their highest good. That all three of them had a role to play in the growth at that time and where everything was going to move to. Like the three of them were in that dynamic together. And so he had to play the dark role. He had to play the dark knight. And he had to be the antagonist, right? And when you look at the next couple of movies, they tell you how he got there, but ultimately he was their dad. And you know, if we go back to the chessboard right now, without naming any names, because we're focusing on wisdom, I don't see any wisdom in our leaders, but that's forcing us to stand up now and have our own wisdom. We have to decide what we're going to do now. They are our Darth Vaders. And they are pushing us to be the Luke Skywalkers, to be the Leias, the Princess Leias, or the Yodas. Teach you I will, exactly. So very good question to ask, Lenny. Sorry. Okay, you guys, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
You're right, love. Okay, so what was my next thing? Oh, that's all right. Talking about stuff like that. So what position do we think wisdom holds in physical world and in spiritual world? Do you think it holds a high position, a low position, a medium? Like, how high do we regard wisdom in the physical world and in the spiritual world? There's two questions there. So.
For me, wisdom is the chief thing, both here on earth and in heaven, and in the spirit world. It's the major chief treasure. For me.
Okay, anyone else want to take that one?
Yeah, wisdom I would say is elevated to the highest, as far as in dimensions or in the spiritual level. The attainment of wisdom would be like saying you have the whole compilation of the Akashic records all there. Wisdom is like a tree that grows forever. So, and like what you said, with multiple different colors of flowers and fruits and different kinds of things that can be pruned or grown or added into it. So, yeah, at least in the spiritual dimensions, I would say it's something of the highest regard to obtain. The tree of wisdom is called in scripture. Eating of the fruit of the tree of wisdom, they say.
I know when you're visited by a wise spirit, you can tell the difference. So the wisdom actually holds some validity, because when a wise spirit comes in the room, you can feel the energy before you actually see the spirit. It has a colour and a sound, a vibration. So there's more to this wisdom than, like I said twice now, it meets the eye. I really feel that our language is giving wisdom a bad rap by containing it to WISDOM, you know what I mean? I think there's another word that describes wisdom to its entirety. I don't have it right now. Maybe in another language, wisdom has more depth in the word. Do you know what I'm saying?
It definitely does in Hebrew and Spanish.
There you go.
And Latin and Greek. It has a lot more depth in, I'm sure, native. Nessie could probably tell us in Anishinaabe what the word wisdom is, maybe. I don't know, I don't throw them in there. But I know in Maya it has a lot more depth, because Maya is a glyph language, like Hebrew is. And so it's a picture, and you can go as deep with it as you can go with the picture. Like Chinese, or Mandarin, I guess. I'm very American saying Chinese, but the different Asian dialects, many of them are pictorial as well. Egyptian hieroglyphs is pictorial. So when we see wisdom depicted, there's very, in ancient texts, it's very, very, very diverse, very deep. Yeah, definitely.
Yep, I'm realising that.
I
Anyway,
like it when they use the word sapient or sagacity for wisdom. Sapient coming from the serpent, the snake, because there is incredible teaching to where the snake is very wise.
That's
And
it.
if, and if we look at the serpent, the snake, what type of impression does the snake leave upon the earth, where it distributes its weight, and so as it slithers upon the grass and stuff, it doesn't leave an impression, whereas animals and whatnot, they have weight to them that's distributed on their feet, so their soul will leave an impression upon the earth where the snake does not. And it's moved. Well, then you get into the movement of the S, and then it even goes into greater teaching of the snake on the cross, or the snake on the crux, or the snake in the tree.
So in your tribal knowledge, does that mean a snake doesn't have the same role as maybe a different type of animal because it doesn't have feet?
Well, it just kind of puts it in the perspective of the impact, that all the creatures have,
Right.
and I'm not trying to raise any particular animal above any other animal, because through all living, breathing entities, through all tools, whether they be the rocks or the water or the air, they all have teachings within them, and then maybe that is where the wisdom is, being able to gather data, as you stated earlier, to take inventory, and then from that inventory we make our decision whether we watch a pack of wolves and how they will work as a pack and work together for the accomplishment. Then we utilize those tools. Oh, look, it's better if we work as a pack to have this outcome. But even the Egyptians, I believe, they hold this snake in a high regards as far as having its wisdom.
I think this is really beautiful that you brought this up, because I hadn't thought of the fact that the snake might be leaving a different imprint on Earth than those of us with feet. That's really cool. Thank you for that.
Anytime.
you get a golden star.
You do. You get a golden star.
Okay, so where are we? This is really good. I'm enjoying this. All right, so we've talked about how many wisdoms are, the ultimate wisdom. All right, I'm running out of questions now. Why do we associate wisdom with age when we know that it doesn't just necessarily occupy an old body? I know that we associate it with age because the longer you walk, the more wisdom you gain from experience. But Baby Yoda was a baby and he was still wise. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think when I look at the people who are older than me, they had an expectation that you honored them for their knowledge, whether they had earned it or not, or whether they had any or not. We were supposed to, and I'm talking about me being 70 something. We were supposed to honor our old elders and respect them and listen to them and all that stuff. Well, starting with the baby boomer people, that kind of went away. And so I kind of wonder if that's part of lore, LORE, or old rules that are no longer being practiced. Because I wonder if now we're leveling out our generations and looking at each other as, have you earned this, versus I automatically have to give this to you.
People were called lore masters, chroniclers, or sages.
Well, it makes me think of Mr. Tortoise. How many licks does it take to get into the center of a Tootsie Roll, Tootsie Pop? I don't know. Go ask Mr. Owl. And they always had the owl, they picture the owl with the hat and the mortarboard of education, the wise owl, so when it's like we're looking for answers, it's like, oh, go ask the wise old individual because they have more likely more experiences. So they've collected more data, but it's that whole thing of where someone is younger, and you tell somebody younger, don't go into the woods by the river to the south because there's a lot of mountain lions there. And then you get this younger entity that's like, well, I'm not going to believe that. And I need to learn from my own experiences. And they disregard what they're taught. So is that just ignoring the wisdom? Or is that not gaining your own wisdom or knowledge?
There's that silence of truth again.
I think
I was just thinking how wisdom, and like I was saying before, and use the pub example, you can walk into a place you don't know, and right for that second, you got no wisdom because you don't know where you are. The only wisdom you'll have maybe is how to watch your back in a strange place that you are. So just for that moment, your wisdom, what you thought was 100%, just went down to probably 50%. Given time, it'll grow. But it just showed me how many different wisdoms we have to have. Wisdom just isn't one wisdom. Do you know what I'm saying? You've got to have different wisdoms.
It makes me think about being a child, and you would go into the store with your parents. No matter what store it is, you would go with your parents, and you would watch them go up the cash register with whatever they're going to purchase, and then you would witness how they do it. And then all of a sudden, there's that first time when your parents are like, here, run into the store and pay, or run into the store and get a soda or whatever, and then you walk into the store and you feel that pressure, that anxiety about, oh, I get to do it this time. So then you extrapolate over all of the times you witness your parents or individuals coming in there and paying for something, and you utilize that you go in there and you do it in a certain manner because if you do it a certain way, you're going to get the most positive results. Whereas if you go in there with like an attitude and be like, give me a candy bar, and then the experience possibly could be negative. Like your example of going into the pub, that from witnessing people when they go into a pub and they act casual and they go in there with a slight of holding themselves well, then you're more likely going to have a positive experience. Whereas you go into a pub with an attitude and your chest out, then you're in a sense increasing the possibility of a negative outcome.
I Oh, I'm sorry, Nasa. Go ahead, finish.
So I was just going to say, so is that, is that the wisdom also of making that 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 decision of action?
I kind of wonder if it's different in the sense of we have tools in the toolbox, which I call life skills, and then we have wisdom. And I kind of see them a bit differently. Um, Tools in the toolbox are things that you've learned, like how to be wise, how to be smart when you go into a pub or go into new places, or you're pulling out experiences and skills and things like that. Whereas wisdom is sort of this centering bottom line, like gold in your bank account. Like you don't always pull out the gold to go buy the groceries, right? That doesn't get touched. Gold is like in your savings account. Like I said, wisdom is your savings account. Whereas life skills is like dollar bills, and you've learned how to spend them wisely. So I kind of see them differently.
Well,
Um,
could also with that wisdom be the ability to naturally pick out the tool that you need for
Sure.
the specific occurrence?
Yes. Yes.
'Cause like
I
some
agree.
people, like some mechanics, they can look at a nut and bolt and they can say, oh, I need a 1/4 inch wrench on that. And they're right, just by looking at the bolt, they can make a measurement, where some people, they don't have that skill, and so they have to go through, 3 or 4 different sockets just to find the right size, where somebody can just look at it instantly and say like, oh yeah, we needed a blunt end flathead screwdriver, or we need to use a
Right.
ball peen hammer and not a, not a claw hammer.
I agree with you, and I think it's just how we see it, right? There's no right and wrong on this one. It's just in my head. I guess I always look at wisdom as like the big gold bars in my, like I said, my savings account. Like, wow, I've really learned about this one. Or like managing myself with family members, or learning how to be sober, or things like that. Whereas, I don't know. So, but this is just in my head. It doesn't mean it's right. It's just kind of, I think, how I put it in boxes or segue it or something. I don't know.
Well, I'll take what's in your head over gold bars anytime, Sharon.
Okay. All right. I don't mind.
Because I'm a zombie. More brains.
More brains. I need brains.
Leslie says skill versus artistry.
Yeah, there you go. I like that.
Yeah. Do you think animals can be wise?
Oh, yeah.
And have wisdom? Yeah, I do.
Yes.
You know that animal when it stands up in front of you, whether it's wild or domestic, and it stands up in front of you and gives you that look, and it's like, wow, you're a wise being. But in saying that animals are wise, that's also saying they already got it. And we can recognise
Yes, but
it.
when you witness that dog going into the litter box and eating the cat poop, you're like, really?
Well, I suppose they think the same of us. How come they pee in a bowl?
But I'm wondering if that's just to keep us off our guard. That's just to amuse us. That's just for us to think, oh, well, maybe they're not that wise, but really they are. It was just to throw you off.
And isn't there a fine line between being really wise and being really stupid? Like, because sometimes wise people come across as silly people, the silly person in the corner who never makes any sense, but actually they're the wisest one in the room. Have you seen that character?
Yes, that's well said. Yes, you're absolutely. What do they call it? Idiot savant? An idiot savant.
Well, do you guys remember I think it was on a Freaky Friday that we actually talked about the cone, the dunce cap, when
Yeah.
you would get sent to the corner and they would put the dunce cap. And if you look at that historically, it was supposed to be like a cone to where the cone is reaching the sky, and from the ethos, the intelligence would come through the cone and then come into the head. So at one point it was a measurement of intelligence to have the cone head on.
True, you got a point there, Nase, because if you look at hats of old days, a lot of them were high off the head. There was a space between your actual head and the top of the hat. And that space was where wisdom lives, I suppose. But yeah, what is it about the hat and the space between your head and the top of the hat? Is that just a, how can I put it? Is there really something to that? Is the space there generated, the molecules in the air or something generated to a point where it can actually benefit you? You know what I'm getting at?
If the cone is made with gold, copper, and silver and twisted in a certain way, yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
I look at movies where women had to wear a hat when they left the house, and I think that was coming to an end when I was really, really young. But my mother wasn't, no, women never went to the store without a dress on, a dress. And they had to wear a hat to church, and they had to wear gloves. And, and I look at all these older movies with women having to wear hats and having to wear bonnets and covering their head. And I was thinking about this the other day. Where did that come from? Why did they have to do that?
The burqa.
Yeah, there you go. And so if there's room from their head to the top of the hat, I don't know, Luna. That's a very good question.
And what Nase described, because that's what I was thinking the lines of, because if you look at even older days when luxury was around, and you see them hats with gold inlays, and especially in what they call the Tartarians and that kind of thing, the Indian people, they had the same, the head things with all the gems on it. Because it's along the lines of free energy and getting that energy out of the ether. Because we're like a battery too, so when it acts upon us around our energy, it would charge up somehow. But I always found that interesting with the dunce hat, because at school when they used to put the kid that always was joking around and was naughty in the corner and put the dunce hat on him, I used to think, that kid's not that stupid. He's funny and mischievous, but he's not dumb. He's actually a wise kid. That's what I was referring to about, have you met the character that's silly but actually really wise? I had one of them in my school, and he was actually a smart kid. He was just the joker with the dunce hat. But I think through...
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of wisdom when it comes to the ability of making somebody laugh, especially when you do it in comedy. They talk about highbrow and lowbrow, and if you think about it, it's like highbrow is like, when you have that aha moment and your eyebrows go high, or it's like, so a joke that makes you think, and then you get the jokes, that's called a highbrow, where lowbrow is like the whole Cro-Magnon man, and his lowbrow is like a fart joke.
Mm-hmm. So we established now
which
wisdom.
Everybody gets.
Wisdom has different faces, not just the old wise man or the little baby Yoda. It could be the funny fella in the corner. So
the joker.
Yeah, we're looking at wisdom wearing different
or the court
masks.
or the jester, right? You're talking about the jester.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm seeing wisdom wearing different masks, and
yes.
You know what I mean, to still deliver the same energy. And it's like did it have to? Did at one point in the world wisdom had to disguise itself because it was hunted down? Like, that's how it seemed to me. Why would you have different faces for something that's doesn't...
Well, think about the wizard. The wizard had the pointy hat.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
and they were highly sought after by the kingdom, because the king wanted the smartest people around him to help make decisions to regard the kingdom.
Yep.
And more times than not, the wizard was, the wise one who was taking all of the time to, find knowledge.
And in native,
I think they didn't always want the one to tell the truth, which is where the court jester came in, because the court jester risked his life telling the truth because he did it with comedy,
humour, humor,
humor.
humour and wisdom.
Pizzazz.
I haven't met a
Yes.
word like wisdom that can actually link up with humour and go, I'm still the same thing. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
I think so. I don't think anything's changed. I think the costumes have changed. Maybe the rules everybody played and the games they played and the lessons they learned, but my guess is there from time to time as society or the world has evolved, you have the puppet crap we see, and then you have times of great wisdom in leadership, and it's like this giant wheel that just repeats and rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And how wisdom shows up and how how people are allowed to tell the truth for a while and then they're not, and they have to disguise it. And many of the comedians
Yeah.
that get up there are angry. They're not happy people. They're people who are angry and want to tell the truth, and so they do it in the disguise in the guise of comedy.
That is so right on, Sharon. There's brilliant comedians that while you're laughing, you are getting zingers all over the place of
Right.
truth. And all of a
I'm getting
sudden-
zingers. I'm getting zingers, Connie. Did you guys hear about the comedian that was just killed in Afghanistan? While he was telling jokes about the Taliban, he was killed.
wow.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. But he was telling jokes like all the way to the end. I guess he had a popular TikTok account,
He went out laughing.
and he went out laughing, telling jokes right in.
But telling
the
the truth, you guys.
Yeah,
He went out
good on him.
telling the truth.
He was angry. That's why I wanted to bring that, because he was mad. He's mad. That's why he's telling jokes at him.
Right.
To
Well, I
make
have
him
noticed-
smaller.
I have noticed, doing open mic comedy and trying to utilize humor as a tool to share knowledge, because when people giggle, when people chuckle, they create, their body creates dopamine, and you have a chemical reaction happening that gives you this like euphoria, this enlightenment. And when you're in that state, it's a lot easier for somebody to receive knowledge than when you're upset and cranky and crabby. It's harder to listen. So it's a very useful tool, and I utilize it. I absolutely utilize humor to try to, open the mood, or open somebody up to be more receptacle of, what I'm trying to share. And it's not as threatening when you're trying to shove information down somebody's throat compared to when you make a joke about it.
Nice slide in there, receptacle. I like
So,
that, and I say
try-
receptacle.
Tribally, we had the wise man was usually a spiritual person. We didn't have the joker as our wise person. We had a spiritual person as our wise person. What's the word? Helping out the leaders in their to make wise moves. I'm short for words today. Oh no. Jill, is that's correct? No say?
Well, I've experienced that comedy is across the board with my people. Like when we go to the res, they're the funniest people I have really ever met are people on the reservation. And I don't know if, I make my assumption it's because, when you have practically nothing, then when you have humor or a sense of humor, that's a lot, and I bring this up many times where I'll get into discussion with somebody talking about, oh, the world is so bad and the world is so negative. And I'm like, well, if it was so negative and if it was so bad, why are these children in these horrible situations still able to find the joy and the bliss and laughter, no matter how horrible things get. And I will say one giggle of a child will neutralize hours of crying by an adult.
Yes. Agreed.
That was wise.
That was awesome. What I just heard about a child's laugh
Yeah.
it's true. It's music.
Actually, I recommended that. The community came and said, we're making stuff online for the community because they're all stuck at home. And they had all these things. And I went, what about kids laughing? And they went, what? I said, tape all the kids laughing and put it online for the community. I said, all the aunties and uncles would love that. It'll help them. And she went, no, that's a
Well,
really
that was
good idea.
beautiful,
Yeah.
Luna.
So she went and did it. She taped the kids laughing and giggling and put it online
Now that
for the
was
community.
wisdom. It was no great act, but that was wisdom. People miss everyday lovely things of life. That's what makes it barren without a child's laughter or a bird singing or all the little things we were used to. Just they tried to just kill it all.
Yeah. Well said, Connie.
So, and you'll find people with wisdom are usually happier on the happy side of things. You don't
Even
see
when
it.
I'm pissed, I'm happy. I mean, I can make jokes about how I went off on someone because I see how ridiculous I am. You know, I'm ridiculous. Human beings are really ridiculous. They just are funny. I don't know.
I think our humour's there. We wouldn't cope without it.
And as you get older, you get redonkulous.
Ridiculous. All right. So, okay. I think we might have exhausted the conversation on wisdom. Is there anything anyone would like to add? Or we can round it up. We can start rounding up now. Who wants to go first?
Well, that's a good time to call
laugh.
roundup. It's 5:55. It's 5:55 p.m. Central Standard Time, I think.
Cool.
Not Mountain
We
Standard.
got
Mountain
10:55
Standard is
here.
6:55, but
10:55.
5:55.
10:55. Okay, so we've discussed wisdom. We've looked at it from all different angles. We've talked about whether we're born with it, whether it's something that we add onto our lives. We agreed both. Wisdom has emotions. The biggest emotion it has, obviously, is humour. We've established that it can be used positively and negatively depending on the person wielding it. And how did we agree on the maintenance? Is it maintained? We don't really need to maintain our wisdom much, or do you think once it's there forever, and we just got to remind ourselves of it? Or do you think that we have to reassess all our wisdoms as we go along?
I think it goes along with living a good life. I mean, I think, I think every day I have to work on myself. It's not an automatic me being the best person I can be. I really have to work the deal. So maybe that's just the whole kit and caboodle. Like, in other words, it's not free. I feel like I have to work it every single day. I have to monitor my thoughts. I have to figure out where I'm at. I have to figure out what vibes I'm putting out there and what's the best course and direction for the day. And then connect with Creator, as you often said. So in that case, I think we're maintaining ourselves every day, all the time, especially right now. Right. And what was one thing I heard this guy say this week was there are some decades where nothing happens, and there are some days where decades happen.
Oh, that's good.
I like
And
that.
we are in the time of days where decades are happening.
I have felt that way. Like I just lived 2 years today.
Exactly. And I think that that kind of impact and that kind of swirl of activity and judgment and energy and thoughts, we have to, sometimes we have to process, depending on whether they're at our doorstep or not, we have to process them. And so that's where I think, Luna, we go into maintenance, maybe maintaining our wisdom, maintaining our grace, maintaining us as good beings.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sharon. Anyone else?
I agree.
Also, go ahead, Connie.
I go along exactly with what Sharon said. As far as for me, unfortunately, I'm not naturally sweet or kind or any of those things. I have a nasty, spoiled disposition. So I have to maintain myself every single day. And I have to own my stuff immediately. Or I'll start rationalizing and telling myself it's no big deal. Oh, you can just go a little more, compromise a little more. Because, if one's good, two is better. So I'm not real good at wisdom. So, I got to keep in touch with my God real close, or I just go off running somewhere. True.
Jules?
I was just gonna say I've learned a couple of things from this roundtable. Um, Learning from and sharing knowledge with peers is a form of wisdom. And it's something that we do quite frequently here in Discord. We come together just because we like and love one another,
Yeah.
but we are here sharing our experiences and our wisdom. I've also learned from this conversation knowing when to use your tools of discernment and intuition when facing adversity while adding them to uncertainty of life situation helps the wise gain wisdom.
I think of the prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And on top of that, also, it is better somebody think you a fool than to open your mouth and prove them right.
I like that one.
Yep.
I like that one very much.
And something else we used to say in AA is you're sharing your experience, strength, and hope. And I think that we do that very well here during these roundtables. We all are sharing our life experience. Hopefully we could share our strength and hope with the other people in the room so that when we leave today, we feel like, okay, I'm not insane, I'm not crazy, I've got one more day in me, keep moving.
Yeah. Keep on moving forward.
Yeah.
And that's a wise word there, Sharon. Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
I hope everyone's enjoyed our conversation today. And every time I have this roundtable, I think I know about words, but it's not until I listen to everyone discuss it and we actually get into the substance of the word that we all learn something. And life's all about learning, and that's a wise choice, I think, to move forward and keep learning. So all I got to say at the end of this is thank you, Creator, for the wisdom that keeps us in the light, and thank you for the laughter that keeps our wings in flight. And
Yes.
I want to thank Donnie for joining us today, Jules, Connie, Sharon, Malia, and Nace. Thank you so much again. That's all I got to say. Anything else before we go?
No.
No.
To say thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Jules. Always a
Yes.
pleasure having all of
Donnie
you.
said he's hungry.
Donnie's hungry.
Yeah, and wap bam loom up a wamp bamboo.
Yahoo! There you go, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed this week's round table. Love to you all on this day, and we'll see you next week with something new for your mind and your heart and your soul. Yalu, everyone.
Yalu.
Yalu.
Oh.